everybody, welcome back to a super special episode of Q-Tips. We are the Video Store Junkies, and we are here to bring you a few suggestions to watch over the weekend on streaming. And it's a super special episode because it's just me and Bill today.
Yay! Got rid of those other hosers.
Yeah. Oh, man.
People with lives.
Want, want. That's right. So, as usual, we're going to jump right into this. I'm going to pass this over to you, Bill.
Oh, what a shock. Oh, I wasn't prepared. I did not see that coming. Well, my theme for today is vampires, and I'll start with one from 1971. It's called Countess Dracula. It's one of the later Hammer movies. This is when Hammer was beginning to circle the drain. And it's one of my favorite periods for Hammer because it's sad and tragic, and they were throwing everything they could against the wall to make it stick. But the 1-2 punch of Night of the Living Dead and pretty soon Exorcist kind of put the kibosh on their gothics. They didn't seem to work anymore. Horror had changed, and Hammer was not able to change with them, and they were unable to get the distributing deals they used to, so the budgets were noticeably lower. This one stars Ingrid Pitt, who I love. I love Ingrid Pitt. Such a classy lady. Met her at a convention in New York. Just super sweet. One of those people who met a billion people that day, but made every single one, including, 11-year-old me, feel, super special.
Aw.
Yeah. Peter Cushing was there too. It was a magical moment. And she's great, and although I think she was dubbed, she didn't make enough stuff. She was in Vampire Lovers and, a few other things. And in this one, this is based on Elizabeth Bathory, one of the most influential of the real people who may have inspired some of the classic vampires, the way Vlad the Impaler is said, nobody really knows for sure, to have inspired Dracula. This is 100% clearly inspired by Elizabeth Bathory, who was this noblewoman back in whatever, long time ago, when they could get away with all kinds of shit. And she apparently believed that by bathing in the blood of virgins, she could stay forever young. And she was a lord or lady and owned a castle, and there were lots of peasants. And a lot of these women started disappearing. And they found out, it took a long time because, what are you going to do? Go to the authorities? She is the authority. But eventually it all came out, and she was walled up, and the people she worked with were executed. So this is a highly fictionalized version of that, where it actually works. She's an old hag. She bathes in the blood of virgins. And she turns into, Ingrid Pitt. Damn. I mean, okay. Sorry,
Right.
virgins, but I mean, you can't argue with success.
Yeah.
It's also got one of my favorite actors from that time, Nigel Green, who didn't do a lot of great stuff. I mean, he did a lot of great stuff, but most people don't know him. He played Hercules in Jason and the Argonauts, and he played one of the soldiers in Zulu, two of the just rip-roaring best English films from the time. This guy had such a presence, and he plays like her confidant, the guy who helps hide the bodies, literally. It's not great. It's directed by Peter Sasti, who did a few other things. He did Taste the Blood of Dracula and Hands of the Ripper, which is an interesting one. It doesn't have it doesn't have anywhere near the style and panache of Terrence Fisher's stuff, but it's still a fun movie. And what was really fun is I'm like 12 years old, and they showed this at a double feature we had one theater in my hometown. It showed porn movies at night and showed kids matinees on the weekend. So you got to see a double feature of horror movies, which literally looked like most of the time they were picked out of a hat. No rhyme or reason. And then you got to see the posters for all kinds of interesting stuff, with lots of good reviews. 100% says Al Goldstein. I was like, well, I guess he knows. So that was interesting. And the thing is, our parents just dropped us off there thinking, oh, they'll get to see horror movies like I Was a Teenage Werewolf or something with Bela Lugosi, perhaps. And this movie's got nudity and red blood, and we're watching it, and we're all like kicking ourselves. Like, our parents had no idea. We were just like, the first time we see some boobs, we're like, whoa! And then we quickly, shut up. The people who sell tickets will hear us and realize that they have made a horrible, horrible mistake. And so magical times. It was this and Vampire Circus, which is even more of the same, only better. Good times. So I recommend it. It is on Shudder, and I will throw this to Renee, you take it away.
Well, I will. Thank you. So now you might be familiar with this phenomenon, having lived in New York, when people would
Oh,
flush alligators, little baby pet
oh,
alligators.
yep.
Yeah.
No
So
good will come of that.
yeah, no good will come of that. Because what are they supposed to eat when they're down there? There's
Mm,
not a whole lot to eat, but maybe some
homeless
discarded,
people.
yeah, homeless people, or maybe discarded remains from a facility that injected growth hormones into things, and then maybe,
Ruh-roh.
yeah, and then what do you know?
Hmm.
You end up with a gigantic alligator, which is the name of the movie.
Oh, I was going to say, what would you call a movie with that premise?
Yeah. So this movie is a movie that messed me up when I was a kid. Yeah, because I don't remember when I saw it, but it came out obviously like just right after I was born, and so I must have been very young when I saw it. Oh my god. So yeah, and I grew up, having grown up in Florida, it's a real possibility that you could have a alligator in your swimming pool.
Oh, yeah, I think it's the default expectation.
It is. Oh my gosh. So this movie messed me up, and it's a little easier to watch now, but I think some of those moments still work on me. Oh my gosh. So I would like this movie to mess all of you up as well, to experience the trauma that I did as a child. And yeah, this movie once again is called Alligator, and you can watch it on Shudder and Pluto and Roku and AMC Plus.
Now this movie actually has
Yeah, yeah.
a fairly impressive group of people behind it. It's directed by Louis Teague, who did Jewel of the Nile and Cujo,
Oh.
among others.
Oh.
And but even more bizarrely, and this is a low budget exploitation movie, as you've probably picked up from Renee's review. It was written by John Sayles, like one of the all-time great independent film screenwriter directors who's been nominated for all kinds of awards and everything. Return of the Secaucus Seven. He's one of those artsy fartsy guys that critics absolutely love. And yeah,
Oh.
everyone's got to start somewhere. And I believe he also wrote John Sayles. John Sayles. He may have been the one who wrote the first and only good Howling movie.
Oh.
And I feel like he was involved with either Piranha or Piranha 2. So I mean, he started out with in the Roger Corman school of, no one's going to give you a lot of money when you're writing your first script, and he wrote these cool things that are heads and tails above most stuff. I mean, Piranha's a good film, it's got fun
Yeah.
characters and stuff because he took his craft seriously, but he was just waiting for his chance to write other stuff. But I love his exploitation. So yeah, Alligator's definitely, it's definitely heads and tails above
Ah.
most alligator movies, which are, they're usually not that good.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I agree.
Yeah.
So what's your next recommendation?
Well, my next one is kind of an odd one, no shock there. So okay, Jess Franco directed 100, as far as people have been able to figure out, 173 movies in a career that spanned some 50, almost 60 years, of which I have enjoyed maybe 3. I'm
Mm.
not a big Jess Franco fan. A lot of folks who are Jess Franco fans sort of compare his filmmaking to jazz, and I kind of get that because I don't really like jazz either. He had talent. He was a talented filmmaker, but he was perfectly happy to just hack out some ridiculously non-budget things with and just had weird fetishes and stuff. Just he made everything from porno to whatever was hot at the time. Here comes almost like a sweeted version, would come out. It's just, yeah, some of his stuff is just so terrible. He made a couple of Fu Manchu movies
Mm.
that did the impossible. They killed Fu Manchu.
Ah.
They just killed the series dead. And yet there were people who liked working with him, like Klaus Kinski, Christopher Lee. So sometimes you'll actually see some interesting actors in here. And this one kind of stands out as a good example of what's good and bad about Franco. It's called Count Dracula from I believe it's 1970. And it's widely regarded as one of the, if not the most accurate adaptations from Bram Stoker's original novel, which is why
Oh.
Christopher Lee really wanted to do it. Christopher Lee spent most of his career either doing Dracula for Hammer or declaring he was never going to do another Dracula for Hammer.
Ah.
And yeah, and it's bizarre because when you look, they kept making movies, vampire movies, with or without him, and they would make ones without him, and they'd be really good. And then he like grudgingly, I guess, they met his paycheck, and he'd come back and do one. And a lot of times the ones with him were not that great. He always complained that the dialogue was bad. He wanted more of Bram Stoker's stuff. So when Jess Franco came and said, "Yeah, let's do it literally. Let's pretty much do it like the book," well, he jumped at the chance. And that part of it is pretty good. The opening half hour or so is really good. I mean, you've seen the story a million times. Dracula comes looking to make a land deal, and Harker's there. But they use some of the actual lines, or very close to the actual lines from the novel. And Lee is
Mm.
having a ball. He loves it, man. He's clearly having fun, just a good time. This is also one of the only ones I can think of that does what Bram Stoker did. Dracula starts out as an old man, and once he gets to England and starts feeding on the young blood there, he gets younger and younger as the movie goes on, which is interesting.
Mhm.
So all that's great. Um, but the problem is there was no budget here. There was no damn budget. They did have some good sets because it's filmed in Spain. But there's nothing here. The scenes that, were supposed to be action scenes, there's one just cracks you up where all they had were a bunch of stuffed animals. So they film it in a way that kind of sort of maybe implies that the stuffed animals have come to life. But all it really is zoom lenses and moving the camera around. Franco was big on zooms, which I hate, and handheld cameras. Again, that's kind of getting into the jazz thing. It's just so damn cheap. And by the time it gets to the end, it's like they ran out of money. It just feels that
Mm.
way. There's a lot of good in here. You feel like Franco, there's sort of a tragedy there that if maybe he had not made 173 films, maybe if he'd just done 73 films, cut out 100 porn or whatever, that maybe he would have been taken more seriously and given the opportunity to do bigger budget things. But I don't know. I get the feeling if you gave him a good budget, he would have just made 10 low budget films because he just liked making films. He just liked doing it, and he
Mhm.
did a lot of them. So I respect that, and
Mhm.
and I don't. If he was a hack, it wasn't for lack of talent. It was because he just liked doing it, and just wanted to make as many as he could. And you dilute yourself when you do that, but I don't know. Maybe he was happy. I mean, toward the end of his life, he was kind of recognized because who else has done that much stuff? People say, "Oh, he was like the Spanish Ed Wood." No, no, that's not true.
Mm.
Um, yeah, he had more talent than Ed Wood because Ed Wood had no talent. But
Ah.
and yet, I would much rather watch an Ed Wood film than most Jess Franco movies. Really, because at least there's just that I don't know, that unique quality. I've always said Ed Wood was a strange guy in that he had genius but no talent, which is a
Mm.
rare thing. Most people have talent but no genius, but Ed had to, he was unique, and that's why we still talk of him. But yeah, there it is. It's in the public domain, so it's all over the place. But it's on Tubi, and an actually very good print of it is also available on YouTube. So there you go. If
Oh.
you gotta watch a Jess Franco movie, and you can't find some of his very very early ones, like the awful Doctor Orloff, which is actually quite good, um, this is probably the one to look up. It's got a good performance, and yeah, it's pretty literate. And I will send this right back to you because what choice do I have?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to stick with my alligator theme. And this is a pretty good oh God, how would I say, gator exploitation film. But this was kind of before things really started going off the rails with these kind of movies.
Mm,
Yeah. So, and this is a
yeah.
good old classic. It is Lake Placid from
Oh, yeah.
1999.
I love that movie.
Yes, and starring Zach's lifelong crush, Betty White.
And watching this movie, you can see why it's his lifelong crush because she's awesome in it.
She is awesome, and she cares about the animals. That's what's most important.
Hmm.
So yes, it's just a very fun movie. It has Bridget Fonda and Bill Pullman and Oliver Platt and of course Betty White. And it's basically this town that is dealing with a man eater, a very big alligator problem to say the least.
Man-eater, cow-eater, whatever whatever it can eat, which is pretty much everything.
Everything. Oh god. And what I did not realize is that this movie apparently was the script was written by David Kelly.
Oh, wow.
And I tell you, I literally just read that. So that was a surprise to both of us. Oh my gosh. And directed by Stephen Miner, who did Halloween
Oh,
H2O. Oh, and Friday the
yeah.
13th. Two of them. Oh
Friday
wow.
the 13th, for
It
sure, yeah.
all comes full circle.
And pretty good effects, too. It's not always easy to pull off. I've seen some of the big alligator movies. It's pretty obviously a hand puppet or lately just dreadful CGI.
Oh, dreadful. Yeah. It's getting pretty bad.
And this one was good stuff. Yeah, yeah, it's fun. And it's of course it's a blast watching Betty White with her potty mouth.
It is. It is. Yeah. It was like a good quality, gator exploitation
Hmm.
movie.
Yeah.
Oh god. So yeah, and you can watch that. You can watch it on Tubi.
A to B.
Yeah. So now here's the big question. Do you have anything to sing us out with?
I do not, but I can share a little bit of information where it
Ooh.
says the New York Times reports that the city of New York rescues 100 alligators per year, some directly from homes where they're kept as illegal pets. It is legal to order them in other states, probably Florida,
Probably.
um, and legal to mail when small.
For the weekend of June 2nd, Bill recommended Countess Dracula, available on Shudder, AMC Plus, and the Arrow Player, and Count Dracula, available on Tubi and YouTube. Recommended Alligator, available on Shudder, Pluto, Roku, and AMC Plus, and Lake Placid, available on Tubi.
When I was a kid, every comic book would have that. There were two things in there that I knew better than to try to slip by my parents. Thank God. One was the live baby alligator, and the other was the live monkey.
God.
And I've heard stories have come out about the monkey. It turns out my cousins actually got one, and it was the most horrible mistake you could make. They were actual monkeys. Sometimes they arrived alive. Sometimes. If they did, the inside of the box was completely caked with monkey feces, and when you open the box, a terrified, hungry, shit-covered monkey leapt at your face and tried to claw your eyes out.
Oh my God.
That was the best case scenario.
Oh.
They couldn't be trained. They probably spread diseases that they would name after you, from fresh from the rainforest to your house. So, also, according to this, New York Times says that escapees and former pets may survive in a short time in the New York sewers. Longer-term survival is not possible due to low temperatures and the bacteria in human feces. Sewer maintenance crews insist that there is no underground population. That's what they would say.
Yeah. It is what they would say.